When does that generational curse that runs through the bloodline stop? Does it stop with you, or does it stop with someone else in your family? As we understand that a generational curse is a repeating cycle of negative behaviors, traumas, or misfortune that passes down through a family bloodline, such as addiction. That is defined in the Bible as slavery to sin that illustrates it's any substance or behavior that take control over a person that effectually functions as an idol. So that's what an addiction is. They gotta have it. Abuse. The Bible also defines abuse as the misuse of power to exploit, control, and harm others. That consistently condemns these actions as sins, that rejects oppression and commands believers to value. Number 3 is divorce. Even though the Bible states that God intends marriage to be a lifelong covenant, adultery or unfaithfulness and abandonment are the reason the covenant is broken. That violates the biblical call to love and protect one's spouse. So we got addiction. We got misuse of power. And we also got divorce. I'm sure the divorce rate's kind of high. Because God is exposing right now. You know what I'm saying? The person you thought that you loved for years, wait for you to hit that hard time and then turn on you. That's that devil energy. So we also have financial hardships that is not defined as a curse, but rather as a test of your faith. It's a test of your faith. That's the spiritual catalyst that emphasizes that true wealth is spiritual. And it's temporarily trial meant to build your character and contentment for your reliance on God. Gotta allow God to open the doors. Like, I'm not understanding. But I understand now. I don't worry about money. Chronic anxiety or depression, that's another one. I'm sure y'all got many depressed people in your family. In the Bible, depression is described as a deep emotional distress that links between the heart and the mood. Anxiety is described as an inward turmoil, distraction, and fear of the future, and a struggle to trust God's provision. Yeah, you know, these are the 5 things. You got addiction, you got abuse, you got the divorce with the partners, adultery. That's what really, breaks the covenant. That unfaithfulness. Because you guys are married in the spirit as well as in the flesh. In the financial hardships, one person have issues, the other one ready to run without lifting that one partner up that failed, so both of y'all could rise again. The other one get that devil energy in them, accept it, feel like they better, and then be ready to just walk out because that partner having temporary hardship without both of them working together, you know? Then you got the chronic anxiety and depression. That means that's that entity that's on that back, just draining you, causing anxiety and depression. I mean chronic. They love people that's in that state. They'll drain you. Then you will struggle to trust God's provision. Because you're in that mood where you probably won't even be able to praise Him like you're supposed to. Show gratitude like you're supposed to. I suffer from anxiety, but I realized that I had to remove the people, the places, and things that cause my anxiety. When a person trigger you, that's the universe reflecting what you need to heal. But at the same time, you got those devil energies that want to feed on you, that will just try to trigger you as well. You either gonna fall for the game or you're gonna ignore it and keep it pushing. They call that rage baiting, basically, is what that is. I had a lot of rage baiters. I ain't let them get to me as much, But at the same time, I match their energy and it still drained me. So it doesn't matter, like, you know what I'm saying? If somebody be all snappy and all that, and you get all snappy back, they win. Because why? You took the bait. You took the bait. That's how I knew I was a warrior in the spirit. But at the same time, I knew I was being depleted. And them entities, they use those low vibrational people. I ain't playing. If you're around a lot of low vibrational people, because we from the hood. I know I am. And when them entities show themselves to me, they show themselves through all my low vibrational friends and family members. That's when I knew something was wrong. And I mean, they ain't gonna show they'll show themselves like in one person at a time. But let me tell you something. They even use my community. Jumping in bodies. Jumping in bodies. Man, that was a scene. But at the same time, when you see a combative spirit, you know what a combative spirit is. People that want to argue all the time, you know, and they come at you out of nowhere, yelling. You don't even know. Just have to pay attention to that. As I paid attention, I'm like, wow. But I can't say the hood is not low vibrational. I was born and raised in the hood. I grew up around negative violence. Like, I grew up around so much that it was kind of normal to me. And that's crazy. These patterns persist. They persist not through a supernatural curse, but because children internalize the behaviors, coping mechanisms, and belief systems of their parents. So why are we not focusing on what hinders us in everyday life and correct it? Like, dude, the hood taught me what not to do when I raise my kids. Especially not live in a hood. When I raise my kids, I couldn't accept my circumstance. I couldn't. I could not accept. I knew that was my circumstance. Cannot allow your circumstance. Look, I know what a shelter is. Not in the hood though. Just be smart about it. Because you know they don't put money in the hood. Why would you be in a shelter in the hood? The government don't even fund the low-income neighborhoods. Even though nature will help relieve a lot of negative energy, we don't have nature in the hood. Nothing beautiful about the hood. That's why you got the suburbs and all that. You know, they got all the beauty. But we still pay taxes when we go to work. Like, come on. That's crazy. But you got to understand how the game is running. You know? Like, I had my children early. I had my children at 19. But by the same man, though. But me and my brother, we had different fathers. You know what I'm saying? What I'm just trying to say is, like, we have to pay attention. Just because we was raised to do things doesn't mean that we need to adopt them in our lives. We can let go and correct it so our kids can see better. That's it. And that line, they say, oh, the apple don't fall far from the tree. I'm telling you, the reason why they say that, because you attached. You see it. You're programmed. Like, it's up to you to accept that environment and that circumstance or not. You know what I'm saying? Dude, I accepted it till I was able to work. And I was gone. Because why? I knew. I didn't accept my circumstance. And I vowed to myself I was not going to have children in that environment. And I didn't. Because I know what I went through. I know what I experienced. I know what the teachers like. Even the teachers curse you. Especially in the hood. I could just imagine. Because I was told so many things. I was told that I wasn't going to live to see 17. I was told from a teacher that I was going to be strung out on drugs, have 6, 7 kids and all this. Man, I went back to them same teachers. Half of them was drug addicts by the time I went back. But at the same time, I let them know I'm still here. I'm still here. You know? And then when you confront, they be like, oh, I didn't do that. I already know it wasn't them. It was the entity attached to them. I get it now. I'm born and raised from Chicago, Illinois, and I understand. It's so many entities roaming that state. Oh my God, I was in spiritual warfare all my life. Almost. Almost all my life. I was in spiritual warfare. That's really spiritual warfare. I mean, you talking about the man. If you don't got the money to pay where you stay. I remember when I was trying to, even when I was in that state, I tried not to leave, but even when I was in that state, right, when I tried to get a job, they had an ad in the paper, right? All right, so I went to the job, tried to get an interview, called to get an interview. Oh, we're not hiring it. That job, it's already filled, dude. Why did I see it in the newspaper the next? This is before we had the internet and stuff, because that tells you how old I am. But this is before the internet and all that. But yeah, that's just how Illinois was. Disenfranchising. They put a liquor store on every corner in the hood so we could drink them spirits. Yeah, I know what them spirits do. I was 16 and they was giving me spirits. Selling it to me without it. They didn't care about if I was 21 or not. That's how I knew they didn't care about me, but they wasn't my race. That's why. It was all about the money. Liquor store on every corner. Yeah, you got them Iranian liquor stores. Yeah, those. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then in my hood was small, right? If another race other than me or Iranian did not have a flat tire, I promise you, I saw a dude have a flat tire. That mug drove. He drove on his is that the hubcap or something? He drove. He didn't give a damn. We had 2 gas stations in our town. Dude did not stop at none of them. He just kept driving. All you saw was sparks under the car. He was making sure he was getting out. That was crazy. And the crazy part, I knew something was wrong when the whole police force in my town was arrested. And then the feds took over. I don't know what kind of police they was, because I don't really deal with police. But I don't know if it was the state troopers, something. They took over our town as police and still didn't police. It was so much corruption in my town. Dude, our water was so yellow and rusted looking. And then Ford had to have his nerve to say, I'm going to adopt this town and call it Ford Heights versus Chicago Heights. He called it Ford Heights. And they ain't did nothing for that town. That tells you, like, what? Propaganda for real, for real. I got many stories about my life. I know I'm going to write a book, because it need to be told of how you got to survive the hood. Surviving the hood. That's probably how I title my book. Straight up. Because I went through so much dangers. But at the same time, I knew. Now I understand that if we don't break the bloodline curses, we can't improve our family from generations to come. I always focused on my kids when I had my kids. My life revolved around my children. But the simple fact is, I could remember how I grew up. And what I didn't want when I was a kid. Why should I do that to my child? I was cursed out. Like, I was a grown woman when I was a kid. Why should I curse out my kids that way? I found myself in my brokenness repeating that pattern, and God reflected to me like, you know how you felt. You know what it did to you. I pulled my kid aside and say, I just wanted to explain. I was the bigger person, because I had to let my child understand the reason why I was like that in my brokenness. I recognized I was broken. My children saw my brokenness, but now they see my healness, and they understand. And I love my kids. I want my kids to be better than me and not like me. I tell them that all the time. And they strive to be better and not like. My shame.